Okay, good evening. We're up to today's daf is Samech Vav, and we were discussing the different opinions of how to uproot the besusim. Besusim of the opinion in Menachos Shabbos means that you'll always bring the Omer the day after Shabbos. You always bring the Omer on a Sunday, and you'll count 50 days, and therefore Shavuos is always going to be on a Sunday. And we had a few different ways to go ahead and disprove it. We had a few different ways to go ahead and disprove it. So let's go over it. If you have your chart or your paper, right? Okay. The first one was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was the opinion. It says Shevish Shavuos and it says Chamishim Yom. How do you reconcile the difference in weeks and days? Well, if it begins on a Sunday, then it's weeks. If it begins during the week, it's days. So you see that shows that it's not on a Sunday all the time. Rabbi Eliezer of the opinion is Tisbalach, is the counting of a person. If you're going to count on a Sunday, it's not the counting of a person. It's not Bezdin that does it. It automatically is what we call Shabbos Bereshis, right? From the beginning of time, that's the way it works. So Memela, that can't be because it's Tisbalach. You should count. Rabbi Yeshua is of the opinion we count days and we count Chodesh and we count days and we count what? We count up to Shavuos, right? We count days and we count up to Shavuos, right? Just like a Chodesh, it's recognizable at the end of the Chodesh when you're starting. So too, it has to be recognizable. So at Seres, it's recognizable. Mashen Kain, if it's going to be on what? On Motzei Shabbos, you don't want to know. Okay. Rabbi Yishmael is of the opinion that it says Shavuos in the beginning of the Yontif, so too Pesach the beginning of the Yontif. And if you can tell me it's on a Shabbos, what happens it's on a Sunday? What happens Sunday falls out in the middle? Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he says it says Shabbos, and he learns out beginning Menachos Shabbos is the beginning. So too is by Shvius is the beginning. So too, it's the beginning by what? By Pesach, as opposed to, again, similar to Rutz and Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. We then had a second brisa. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda said you count 50 days, and if you're going to go ahead and it's going to fall out on the Shabbos, it's not only going to be 50 days. Someday it can be up to 56 days. So you count, until Pesach can be a few days before you actually Shabbos comes for you, Sunday comes for you to count. And Rabbi Yehuda Beseira, and we said the Gersa should be Rabbi Yehuda because he already spoke before, right? He says Tisbalach. He says what? The same thing. Similarly, in the second brisa, the same thing as Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, good. Those are the shittas. Now we're going to have another brisa, fellas. We're going to have a third brisa. We're going to have what? We're going to have a third brisa.
What?
There's some. He bought food.
Brought food?
Yeah. Okay.
From Lakewood?
Okay, now.
Yeah, it's got on it.
Rabbi Yossi Omer. Okay, so Rabbi Yossi, we're on Samech Vav Amid Aleph, and we're going to begin 3 lines down. Samech Vav Amid Aleph, and we're going to begin what? 3 lines down. Okay. Menachos HaShabbos, Menachos Yontif. It means the day after the first day of Yontif, Tesayin. Maybe on Sunday. Shabbos Bereshis. Amrit. V'chinema b'machos haShabbos shebetoich Pesach. Does it say the Shabbos that's what mitoich Pesach? V'lo nemar ela b'machos haShabbos the chol hashana kula mala Shabbosos. Tzeu ba degei Shabbos. In other words, if you're going to say it means machos haShabbos, it doesn't say it does. It's not clarifying. It doesn't say in the middle of Pesach. Mm-hmm. So you're going to go find any Shabbos? Of course you're not. So in other words, obviously, therefore, it can't mean Shabbos. It must be Yontif. It can't be Shabbos. It must be Yontif. Now, this is Rabbi Yossi's first pshat. You guys notice, guys, names are important. This is not on the chart. This is the third brisa. It's not on the chart. For Oid Nemra, it says Shabbos Lamata, V'nem Shabbos Lamaila. Now, this is on the chart. This we had on the chart. Malahalon Regel, just like by Shavuos, it's Tchilas Regel. We saw Tosus means because it's only one day. We saw Tosus Tashlumin. Afkan regel utchilas regel. So to here means regel and tchilas regel. So be'emes, Rabbi Yosi, he seems to say the same as what as Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, right? Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira he seems to be saying that. Okay, now we're going to have another opinion in the third brisa, and we're going to have another opinion in the third brisa. What's the other opinion? Rabbi Shimon ben Lazo Omer, Kasav Echad Omer, Sheishes Yomim Teichal Matzos. I said Sheishes? Yeah. Sheishes Yomim Teichal Matzos. 6 days you should eat matzos. Because of Echad Omer, Shivas Yomim Matzos Teichelu. 7 days matzos should be eaten. So how do you explain? It says 6 and then it says 7. How do you reconcile the difference? Okay, Tzad. Matzah Shiata Yochel La'achla Shiva Min HaChadash. Because only 6 days, right? At the Yochel La'achla Shisha Min HaChadash. Right? In other words, that we know it must be that you bring it on the second day, the second day. The male you'll be able to go ahead and eat Tezayin. So you have to eat from Tezayin until the end. That gives you 6 days of eating matzah. Right? You have 6 days of eating matzah. Right? I just something popped into my head. It's a very nice word from the Vilna Gaon on this. Right? It's very nice from the Vilna Gaon. Sheisish yamim toichel matzos is yochiv to eat matzah. Yeah? And look, it's written chasa. Toichel is written chasa. Shivas yamim matzos toichelu. Right? 7 days matzah toichelu should be eaten. Because when it comes to feeding, you're a chiv to give other people. That is mullah. You have to give, right? Yeah. That's mullah. You give them the ganza. When it comes to yourself, you can be cheap. When it comes to giving, you give mullah. You give full chassidish word from the Gra. Okay, tzad. Mata shiata yochel oichel shiva min hachadash shiata yochel oichel shiva min hachadash. Okay, so now we have, in all intents and purposes, we have the chart. Then we have 2 other shitas. Rabbi Yosi was 2 shitas, and we have Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. So we'll get back to that. Okay, now just to count. Going over the pasuk, right? Going over the pasuk. Usfartim lochem mimachas haShabbos. You should count mimachas haShabbos. You know that's Tezayin. Miyoyim haviyachim es haOmer hatnufa. You should count from the day of the bringing of the Omer, right? Sheva Shabbos is Tamiris Tiyena. Okay, so that's what it says. So the Gemara is going to make an interesting drasha, guys. The Gemara is going to, says the Gemara. We're going to go over the pasuk, and we want to end up that you cut it at night, right? And you bring it the next day, right? And you start counting at night. So it's going to be Ktsira, Svira, and Hava. So the Ktsira and the Svira take place at night, and the bringing of the carbon takes place what? During the day. And the bringing during the day. Okay, right? At night. Says the Gemara. Miyoma v'yachem tisperu yochel. I would think yiktsar, harvest it. V'yavi, bring the carbon. The emasai sheyirtza yispar. In other words, and you'll start counting from wherever. Look at Rashi. It says Rashi. Miyoma v'yachem hachi mashma. It's like the 3rd, 4th line down. It gets small. When you get to the next day after Yontif, the Hu Yom Aviyachem, which is the day of bringing the carbon, that's the time you're prepared to count. Whenever you want. If that day or the next day. No, that's what it's mashma. So you read the pasuk, right? You read the pasuk. This is what I would think. So comes the day you bring the Omer, and whenever you'll start, that's the day that's muksha for you to count. Not that you have to actually start counting that day. That's the day it's possible to begin counting, which you couldn't do before. You couldn't do it before, but now it's possible. Yeah, but not that you start counting that day. So I might think Yochel Yiktzar v'Yavi v'Emasai Sheyirtza Yispar Talmud Leimar meHachel Chemesh B'Kama Toichel Yispar. And the pasuk continues, when you harvest, that's when you begin to go ahead and count. So now I know you have to count the same when you harvest. I might think, okay, you go ahead, you harvest, and you count because they're tied together. And then whenever you want, you bring the carbon. Talmud Leimar, we got to bring it what? B'yoyim. Everything that day, guys. But you're right. Okay, I know now that sphere is not arbitrary. It's totally in the hachal chemish bekama. So I know it's, and I know that the carbon is brought by yom. Maybe the whole thing's brought by yom. Again, you're doing the harvest it the next day. Start counting the next day, being the carbon, everything during the day. Right. So Shiva Shavasais Timimais Tihiyena. Amos Ata Moitza Sheva Shavasais Timimais. Bisman Shata Maskal Limnois Mibe Erev. That's when you start counting what from the day before, the night before, the night before. That's that. To me, that makes it tamim. Yachal Yiktsav Yavi Yisba Laila. Okay, maybe everything at night. Yachal maybe Tamalim Biyom Aviyachim. I don't know how you have a half minute to bring it at night. It's what? You can't bring a carbon at night. You can't bring a carbon at night.
The open base finishes are closed.
What?
I'm saying, where you bring the carbon?
Hesh.
Sweeter's open 24 hours.
No. They close the that's not a statistical problem. If you're lucky able to bring it, you open it up.
I understand that no such thing. It doesn't exist.
Again, so I have to figure out pshat over here. I'm learning wrong pshat because it's an obvious kasha. Okay, so yachol yiktsa v'yavi v'yispar b'layla. Havalem b'yom haviachem. Yachol yiktsa v'yavi v'yispar b'layla. Yachol b'yom haviachem. Okay, tzad ktsira v'svir b'layla v'via b'yom. I don't know what the half mean is that. You know, to go ahead.
Yom Havia, bring it this day.
No.
I'm saying, where you read the person.
What's the Gemara's country?
I don't know how to have mean at the beginning of the night, you know. Unless you shechted, you know what? It could be shechted during the day, and you put, you're mock. I don't know.
You do what at night?
That's like carbon pesach.
You burn the aluminum at night.
Yeah, I'm missing the boat. Something's not right here. Okay, weiter. Yep, shot. Okay, tzad katsira usfira balayla. Right, you cut the oil, you harvest it, and you count at night. And you bring the carbon during the day. Amarava, kula islu pircha. Guys, you have your chart. On all of these, we have a pircha, right? On all of these, we have a pircha. You have it? I give it to you, right? Okay. On all of these, we have a pircha. Bar mitarti tanoi basroi. Guys, that's Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. It's not on the chart. This is the third brisa. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar and Rabbi Yossi's second pshat. In other words, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, there's no kasha on that. And Beimas is a kamaisa, and that's Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. So looking at the chart, there's a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai. There's a kasha on Rabbi Eliezer. There's a kasha on Rabbi Yeshua. There's a kasha on Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. There's a kasha on Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Right. The only time there's not a kasha is Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Yochanan ben Beseira in the first brisa, and Rabbi Yossi's second pshat, and Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar in the second brisa, the third one. Okay, now, so the Leslu Pircha. Now we're going to go through each one, the kasha on each one. So what's the first one? What's the first one? Is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So he was 7 weeks, 50 days, right? He says that if you say days and weeks, it must be that you're starting to go ahead and count. How do you do that? You must be just count during the week, and therefore what? You would have days. Says the Gemara, even the Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Dilma Kidabaya, Dama Abaya, Mitzvah Lemimne Yomer, Mitzvah Lemimne Shvuy. You know what it says days and it says weeks, guys? It's not speaking about bringing the carbon. It's speaking about the sphera. When you count sphera, you have to mention days and you have to mention weeks. Right? That's a good kasha. But Enochinami could be, it's only weeks. Maybe you only bring it on a Sunday. Right? Maybe you only bring it on a Sunday. Imid Rabbi Yeshua. Okay, what did they say, guys? Guys, Rabbi Yeshua said that Bezdin counts and not a person. And Yeshua says 29:16 that's a hecker. Says, maybe it's the first day of Pesach. Maybe it's going to the last day of Pesach. Obvious kasha. It could be going to the last days of Pesach. That would fit in. So Bezdin's Makadish in the count. Maybe it's the last days. The Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yehuda Meseira Leslu Pircha. and Rabbi Shmuel who says beginning and end, and they both say similar that just like Shavuos is one day and you recognize, so too Pesach it's one day, and they're both the same. As I said yesterday, and I repeated today, I didn't see the discernible difference between Rabbi Shmuel and Yeshua and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Okay, now that's finished with the chart, guys. I don't have a chart on Rabbi Yossi's two opinions and Rabbi Shimon Elazar. That was today. Rabbi Yossi's first opinion was Menachos Shabbos. It was the same thing as Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. So if you slug up Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai saying like Abaya, well, slug up Rabbi Yossi's first shot. And Rabbi Yossi's second shot was like what? Was like Rabbi Yishmael. Look at the second shot was like Rabbi Shmuel. What did Rabbi Shmuel say? No, I think like Rabbi Yehuda Beseira, excuse me. Yeah, like Rabbi Beseira. So therefore it's going to be good. So let's see inside. Yeah, that's what's good. Now, very good. Says Imid Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. That's the we have that on the chart. Havamina Dilma Chamshin Levar Mehani Shisa. Guys, what was his kasha? It's not always 50; it could be 56 because if Pesach starts on a Monday, then you're going to bring the carbon on a Sunday. You get right. So maybe we don't count that. Maybe we don't count those other days before, and you start counting from you bringing the carbon. That's the kasha of Rabbi Yehuda. So, Im Rabbi Yehuda havamina Dilma Chamishin Levar Mehani Shisa. Im Rabbi Yehuda Beseira or Rabbi Yehuda without the Ben Beseira. Again, that's Tisperu. That's the same thing. Maybe it's the Yantav Achrein. So basically, I jumped the gun early. We got rid of the sheet. We took care of Rabbi Shmuel. We took is the only one. Rabbi Yehuda Beseira in the first lashon. Now, and Rabbi Yossi, we have two pshatim, and then we have Shimon Elazar. Rabbi Yossi chazile pircha. In his first pshat, he gave there's a kasha. We don't say what the kasha is. There seems to be a kasha. V'hainu dekama ve'oid. Guys, look at the lashon. Go back about 10 lines down from the top. V'oid. In addition, nemer Shabbos lamata v'nemer Shabbos lamayla. Right? Like why is he giving me oid? Because there was a kasha what on his first pshat. Okay? V'hainu dekamar v'oid. And therefore, so the last two opinions of Shimon Elazar, Shimon Elazar said a very good pshat. He said 6 and 7 he was a Chodesh pshat. How do you eat matzah for 6 days from Chodesh? It must be that you bought it right after Yom Tif. You bought again. The first day of Yom Tif, you must have bought it, and then you get 6 days. Because if you didn't bring it the first day, but you bought it on Shabbos, you don't get any days. Good. That stands. There's no pircha on that. That stands. So geschmack gemar. Says the Gemara. Kufa. As Kenny would say, mehadab friya dermant. So Amar Abaya. Kufa Amar Abaya. Mitzvah lemimnei yaimei u'mitzvah lemimnei shvuyei. It's a mitzvah to count what. And yeah, you mentioned both. Rabban and the Beir of Ashi Manu Yaimei Umani Shvuyei, they counted both. Amema Mani Yamiv V'lei Mani Shvuyei Amar Zechel Migdashu. He is of the opinion. Amem is of the opinion that it's Zechel and Migdash, and therefore you don't count. You're only doing it as a askara, as a remembrance, and therefore you don't have to count weeks. Oh, obviously the Rambam does not paskin like Amema, because the Rambam said it's the Raisa. He said Raisa, not Zechel and Migdash. Right. It's very, very interesting. Okay, good? Okay, Baruch Hashem. So we were dealing with the logistical, how they accomplished it. They went ahead, they went out before Yontif. They went out Erev Yontif. They would go ahead, find what they want to put together. They would tie it at the top to make it easier. They would go out, Machloikis. Again, they went out with as many people as possible to publicize it. They would talk and they would say, is it dumb, this, that, down the line, even on Shabbos, they'd call out Shabbos Zu, and everything. And why would they do that? Because to publicize that the Besusim are incorrect. We want to go ahead and say we're bringing it right after, we're going to bring it right after Yom Tov, okay? And it's even Deicha Shabbos. Now, Katzruhu, they would cut it. V'nasnuhu b'kupos, and they would put it in the boxes that they were there. Heviyu la'azara, they would then bring it in the azara. Now, in Vayikra, we have a Vayikra. I don't have the pasuk here, right? Yeah, the pasuk says, "Aviv koloi be'esh gerish Carmel." So it has to be aviv. It has to be the first grain, and koloi, it's got to be toasted. It's got to be toasted. Mahavim means they would go ahead and toast it. They would go ahead and they would go ahead and toast it with or. Kidei lekayim by mitzvahs kali. Divrei Meya. So guys, Reb Meya says they toasted in the shibolim. When the barley was in the stalks, they would go ahead and they would toast it in the stalks. Not the kernels, but in the stalk itself. That's the shita of Reb Meya. Look at Rashi, guys. Umahavavin be'azara b'shibolim. In the azara, b'shibolim, in their shibolim. They were in their what? They were in the sheaves. Good? They were in the sheaves. V'chachamim oimrim b'konim u'b'kolchos chayv demaisai, with reeds and stalks, they would hit them gently, kidei shelo yismayach, that they shouldn't get crushed. In other words, they're obviously holding, you don't toast them in the stalks, you toast them the grain, but you want a whole kernel. So therefore, you're using very soft implements to go ahead and thresh it. You're going to separate that. You're using soft instruments to go ahead and separate that, and therefore, you're going to toast it in the kernels. Nasnu la'avav, and they would put it in this avav, this type of device. Va'avav haya menukav, and there was holes in it. Kedei sheya or shoylet bekulai, that the or should go ahead and take hold of all of it. And once they went ahead and toasted it, shatchuhu be'azara, they would spread the kernels out in the azara. Va'aruah min hasheves boy, and the wind would cool it down. Again, it's two things. First of all, it has sweat on it, the heat. You want to dry it out, and also it's hot. You want to cool it off. So that was the purpose of spreading it on the azara. Would serve that purpose by going ahead and spreading it out. Nasnu l'rechayim shel grusais. They would put it in a grinder for beans. Now the grinder of beans did not go ahead and make it very, very thin. What we want to do is we want to grind it, but we're going to sift this 13 times. So if you made it too fine, it would just go right through.
Flour.
It's a little thicker than flour. It's coarse. It's coarse. Right? Vayitziu mimenu isaroin. Right? Shehu minupa mishalosh esrei napa. They would go ahead and they would extract from it a tenth of an ephah or a saroin or an oimer. Guys, very important. An oimer and isaron are synonymous. It's good to know. An oimer, we call it the oimer, and it says oimer is what? Is isaron or ephah. It says that's what it is. So therefore, you would go ahead and you would 13 sifters, v'hashar, and all the leftover from, again, you're beginning with 3 saw, guys. You're beginning with 3 saw. All the leftovers nifta, you'd be paida, because it's kaidesh. V'nechal l'chol adam, and therefore it can be eaten by anybody. V'chayiv b'chala, you'd be chayiv b'chala u'patim in a ma'aser. And it would be what? It would be pata ma'aser, because something that was hegdish is pata from ma'aser. Right. Once you went ahead and you paid it, and now you went ahead and now after you paid it, you mixed it and using it as a mach bali broit. So you have the challah. Yeah. Yes.
These are the leftovers, not the.
Yeah. No, the carbon that we're going to see what we do. We can mix with oil. We're going to do kimitza. Needs tenufa. We discussed that. No hagasha. Oh gosh, I'm not sure about the Rishon. I don't remember. Anyway, tenufa needs. Now, the chayi b'chala upatim in amaisa. It's pata from maisa. Why would you say it's pata from maisa? Because why? Because it was hegdish. Rashi, 2 lines from the bottom. Upatim in amaisers. The meruachu biyad hegdish. The meruach, which is the gemar malacha, fellas. That's the gemar malacha when you have the kli. Right, you have the pile, and you're going to smooth it over. At that period of time, where there's the chiyuv of meiser, it was hegdish. And meruach hegdish poitim in a meiser. If meruach hegdish took place, it's going to be pata. Okay, it's going to be pata. Good. However, says Rabbi Kiva mechayi b'chala meiser. So Rabbi Kiva says yechayiv b'chala. He agrees with the Tanakama. However, he argues on the fact he says you will be chayiv in meiser. We're going to see the shita of Rabbi in why the meruach was behegdish. Why in the world would he argue on that, right? We'll have to see. Has she good? Mm-hmm. Okay. Tanrabanan. It says that, guys, a few terms. Aviv, koloi, be'esh, gerish, carmel. I don't know why this doesn't have this pasuk. It doesn't. It's like the ikka pasuk over here. We have a chumash.
Yeah.
Avi has a chumash right next to it. Is that a chumash? Ikka beis. Thank you. Okay, this is this week's parsha, right? The Imtakar of Minchas Bikurim, and this is speaking about the Omer. Lashem, Aviv Koli Be'esh, Geres Carmel, Takravis Minchas Bikurecha. So Aviv means the first ears. Koli means toasted. Be'esh is the fire. Geres means what? It's coarse, and Carmel means what? It means plum kernels. Plum kernels. Okay. So let's see now. Aviv ze aviv. That's what it's the rashis ktsir. Koloi is be'esh. Malamet shal Yisrael mahavav b'maisai be'esh. They were toasted in fire. K'dei l'chaim by mitzvahs koli. Divrei Reb Meir. The Chachamim oimen, and the Chachamim are the opinion. Ein or lashon koli. El davar acher. You have to put something between it and the fire. You don't toast it directly in the fire. You need something between it and the fire, right? So what is that? Saying lashon kolil el davar kolil. Some type of kappa kli. Haketzad. Aviv shel kloyas hayasham. There was a aviv, some type of implement of kloyas. Sham v'hayamunukiv kikavra. It was had holes in it like a calendar, like a sifter. Kedei sheyor shaletis bekulay. Now it says the pasuk says. The pasuk says, "Aviv koli be'esh geres carmel." So the Gemara has a havamin of the following: when it says koli, is it going on the geresh or is it going on the aviv? What's it going on? At which point in time do you have to do it? Says the Gemara, "Aviv koli geresh." Any day aviv koli, if you toast it when it's first cut, in geresh koli, or you toast it when it's what? When it's coarse grain. Kishu oime be'esh. When it says Eish in the middle, Hifsika Inyan. So guys, what does it say? Aviv Koli Be'esh Geres. So it says when it says Eish, it connects the Koli to the Aviv. So you don't do it when it's coarse, it's sifted already. You do it beforehand. Machlokes, you do it b'shibolim, or you do it in the kernels, but it's before it's sifted. It's before it's ground up. It's before it's ground up because the Eish is mafsik and this Koli goes on. It goes on the Geresh. Carmel. What is Carmel? It's Rachmel. In other words, take the word Chof Reish, and we're going to make it into a Nitrikin. You're going to invert it. Take the word Kar, and you make it Rach, soft. Umo, it's plump. V'cheinu Oimer, the Ish ba mibal shlisha. This is pasuk by Elisha. A man brought food to Elisha, and miraculously he was able to go ahead and feed his 100 talmidim during B'shas Rav. There was a Rav, and he was able to feed his talmidim. And this pasuk is describing the person who brought it. And it's just a digression, and we're going to place a little nutrikin and play a little. It's a garita. It's a garita. Okay. Henu Aimer ish mi bo mi bal shalisha v'yavi lish elakim lechem bikurim ve'esem lechem sairim v'karmel bitsikloinoi. That's what we have to word. The word bitsikloinoi means in their husks, but we're going to darshan it in their husks. Sikloinoi means their husks. Vayomer tein la'am v'yachelu. Give them and they'll eat. Now bitsikloinoi, the base is ba. The tzaddik is v'yatzek. He came and he poured. The lam is lanu for us. And the aleph, the lamed v'achlanu, the nabi hayin, it was good. Okay, that's the trikin. The reason you brought it near is the rachmel. The Omer, another example by a mina efes, a woman of ill repute. This alsa be'ahaviv that says, "Let us enjoy ourselves with acts of love." This alsa be'ahaviv. No, so This also be'aviv nisa v'nitein v'nala. Let's be happy and go off v'nismach v'nischata be'avim, and then we'll enjoy ourselves with acts of love. Okay, v'oimer, it says knaf ranonim ne'elasa. The wings of this bird, the wings of the ranonim is enjoyed. What does that mean? Noisei oila v'nischata. It brings its egg up and it lowers it down. V'oimer, it says ki yared derech linegdi. This is by Bilam's donkey. So what does Yud Reish Tes? Yerasa, saw, Rasa, was scared, and not said and turned around. The Rishmol Tano Carmel means Carmale. Carmale means when it's what? It's like a full car, like a full pillow. So then that's the lush shyness of the trikin. Rabbi Akiva Mechai B'Chalav Meisus. So what are we discussing, fellas? We're discussing from the shalosh soyim that were left over, right? What? So they would go ahead and be paid, and they would go ahead. Therefore, you be chayiv mechala when you right. But Maisa and Rabbi Kiva says you be chayiv mechala, be chayiv in Maisa. Amrav Kahana, Aim Machayi Rabbi Kiva, Meruach Hegdish, Eino Paiter. Meruach Hegdish, the Meruach, when you go ahead and Hegdish and you smooth it over, ain't a paita is not going to pater it from Maisa. In other words, it seems Rabbi Akana is learning Rabbi Akiva a universal din in Hegdish. Not a din unique to the Omer, but a universal din in Hegdish. That if Hegdish is Shaykh and Chala in Maisa, it must mean the Gemar din of a crop belonging to Hegdish will not pater from Maisa. Yeah. You hear what he's learning, guys? He's saying that Meruach Hegdish, Meruach of Hegdish, smoothing down the parl of Hegdish, which usually is the Gemar Malacha, the Mechayev in Maisa, ain't a paita, is not going to pater me from Maisa. Maser Rav Sheishes, right? And so Rabbi Kiva holds Yechayev. Maser Rav Sheishes, Moisa Shlish Soyin Halalu, Maya Oisimba, Nifta, you'd be paida, v'necha l'chal adam, and anyone can eat it. So even though the Omer itself, anyone can eat it, meaning you can be paida, and then anyone can eat it. V'chayiv b'chala, and you be chayiv b'chala, upatim in a-maisris. V'kiva m'chayiv b'chala u-maisris. So Amru Loi, they told Rabbi Akiva, paida miyad gizba yochiach. If you go ahead and redeem any crop from the hands of the gizbar, it'll disprove you. Shechayavis b'chalu patim in a-maisris. V'im isa the meruach hegdish ein a paiter, my ka'amalei. He. Outside. Guys, outside. If Rabbi Akiva holds A, he holds A. Comes along the Chachamim, and I'm going to say kasha on you. What's the kasha, right? B. So you're asking, I hold A, and you hold B, and you're asking me from B, what's the kasha? In other words, just like by the Omer, I hold that the Miruach is not pater from Maisa, so to anything in the Beis HaMikdash, that anything, lav dafka the Omer, any other shar tefua that is owned by a Hegdish also is going to be chayiv in Maisa. And you're asking me, I'm a Tana. So, but you see from what's the kasha? You see from the fact they asked from shar tefua, it must mean it's not a din that's all over universal. It must be it's a din that's unique to what Omer. In other words, if Rabbi, he holds A clearly, and you're asking him from B, don't ask him from B. I hold A. I mean, what's your kasha? It's not a kasha. Whatever I hold this din. This is what I hold, and you're asking me from a different place. In that place that you're asking me, I also hold A. I hold A universal. So what are you asking me? And that was one more time. See it inside. One more time. Master Rav Sheishes says Rav Kahana that Rabbi Akiva says a universal din. That what? That Hegdish is always chayiv in Meiser. Master Rav Sheishes Meiser shalosh shalom alolu mayoisim boy nifta v'necha l'chol adam chayiv b'chalu paitim in Meisers. Rabbi Akiva mechayiv b'chalu Meisers amruloi paida miyad gizba yochiach shechayiv b'chalu paitim in Meisers. Now, v'im isa, and if this is the kasha, here's Rav Sheish's kasha. Vim Isa de Miruach Hegdish and Paita. If you're right, correct Rav Kahana, that Rabbi Akiva never holds by Hegdish. There's a Torah Meiser, my Kamale. What were they saying back to him? He. Obviously, when they said it back to him, it must be they know that there is a Torah of Meiser. Another from the retort, from what they asked him, it's clear that what Rabbi Akiva does not hold it's a universal Torah, guys. For Oid, Eseve Rav Kahana Bar Tachlif Rav Kahana put in the word Miditanya, Rabbi Akiva Mechayev Bechala Ubemaisis. Why? Lefishlei Nitnu Mois Elalit Sayrich Lehen. You know the reason you put it from Maisa? Guys, when you bought these three sayim, you know what you were magdish? Only that isarin that you need. So, well, it's more than it's not even a braver thing. I don't think you have to be mavura. The hegdish was only chal on this. It's only chal on this. It's you don't even need opinion. Guys, look at Tosfos. Shleininim mayis elul tzarich lehen. Says Tosfos, v'hadik tani v'ashar nifta. In fact, Tosfos akasha. If there was no hegdish, why do you have to be paida? There's no hegdish, why do you have to be paida? Leslie, the v'ashar nifta Leslie t'lidei loy boy padiyah. They don't agree with that. Inami shalayamu hegdish yoytza blei pidyon. It's to worry about the future, but intrinsically it doesn't need it. It's a good word. Intrinsically it doesn't need it. But that you should a takala should happen in the future, we'll do it. So in other words, guys, geschmack. When Rabbi Akiva himself says that this is a din in the Omer, the fact that that was never kodesh, it must be all over hegdish. He holds that miruach does pata. So I have two kashas on you. Two kashas in you, Rav Kahana. You, Rav Kahana, saying Rabbi Akiva saying in universal din that hegdish is never is never takes off the chiyuv of meiser. I'll disagree with you in two ways. One, in a conversation that takes place between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim, and the Chachamim ask him, all other wheat, all other tfua is pata. Now, if Rabbi Akiva holds it's a universal din, what are they saying to him? Of course, he also disagrees there. Ella must be he doesn't disagree there. So it must be a din that's unique to Omer. And Sveitens, Rabbi Akiva himself says the reason. You know why you pata by the Omer? You know why you pata? You know why chayiv and maisa? Because it never was hegdish. But it's never hegdish. But Einach Inami, something was hegdish. Taka would be what? Anything was hegdish. Taka would be pata for maisa. Elam Rabbi Yochanan, Talmid Ora Chayev B'Piv Shal Rabbi Akiva. He said this all the time. Shlei Nitnu Moyes Elul Tzarich Lehem. The reason why you pater is because that money was given. They want to never magnish it. So I think I like the Hezbollah guys. You start off like a universal din in Meiser, and then you go, no, it's only din that's unique to what. So Rav Khan has been slugged up. Okay. Now Amar Rava Pshitali the Meruach Hegdish Paiter. Now when you go ahead in Meruach, when you pile up the grain, the Gemar Malacha, it patters. If it's in the possession of Hegdish, it's pata. Ve'afil Rabbi Akiva loika mechayev hasam. Rabbi Akiva is only chayiv over there by Omer. Elef shloi nitna moyas elul tzarich lehen. Al Meruach Hegdish Balma Paiter. But Meruach Hegdish Ali taku with pata. He taku with pata. Yeah, good. Meruach Oibit Kechavim Tanoihi. What about Omer? What's about crap that's owned by a guy, and then he goes ahead and he piles it up? It's a chayv and not. Now this is contingent upon whether you hold that the kinyan of a guy is mafkir midei shiva. That's totally upon that. The Tanya Tarmin Mishal Yisrael Al Shal Yisrael. You could take truma one on the other. Umishal Kechavim Mishal Kechavim. Umishal Kutim Al Shal Kutim. Umishal Kol Al Shal Kol. Meaning, you mix and match, guys. Kol Shal Kol, Yisrael, Goy, Kut, Goy. You mix and match. So obviously he holds that what the Meruach of a Goy is chayiv in Maisa. When you can take up truma, I mean, there's a chayiv Maisa, and we hold that the Goy's ownership in Eretz Yisrael is not mafkia the kinyan, right? It's not mafkia the halacha. Because he's holding it's only Eretz Yisrael. Chutz Lord Rabbanan. So I'm saying in Eretz Yisrael. I'm saying, but you think that maybe ownership of a guy in Eretz Yisrael takes away. Why we do by shvius? They sell it to a guy, right? So I'm saying that anyway. Divrei Reb Meir. So Reb Meir is of the opinion that the meruach of a guy is chayiv ma'isa, because I can pata when you sit. Guys, once you can pata a Jew, it's chiyav al chiyav. Remember, you can't take off for patrol chiyav. You can't go back and forth. So the fact that misha kol that go you could take off for a guy on a yid, right? Obviously it's a chiyav. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon Aimrim, Tormim Mishal Yisrael al Shal Yisrael, Mishal Avid Kechavim al Shal Kutim, Shal Kutim al Shal Avid Kechavim, Avaloi Mishal Yisrael al Shal Avid Kechavim, Shal Kechavim, or Kut, V'loi Mishal Avid Kechavim, Shal Kutim al Yisrael. You know why? Because there's Pata. They're Pata. The Ruach HaVigoy is Pata from Maisa, says there in Truma. And therefore you be taking off what? From the Chiev to a Torah to Chiev. That's the Machlokes Tanoim. That's good for the Machlokes Tanoim. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir hold Taki Chayiv, and Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon Takawat hold you a Pata. We say a capital Tehillim.